Hello, my name's Ryan.
And I'm Cassie.
You know what annoys me?
What?
You. Because you're a board gamer. And today, I'm just giving you a list of things I hate about Cassie. No, not really. Actually, it's a list about things that annoy us about board gamers in general. This isn't board games. This isn't like the publishing companies. These are actually the people themselves. We're going right to the humans and telling you things that we don't like about...
Calling out the individual people that we have a problem with.
By name. No. Number 1, Cassie. Number 2, Cassie. Number 3, Cassie. No. These are just things that annoy us about board gamers. Obviously, recognizing a little bit of irony because we are board gamers.
And we've totally done some of these things ourselves.
I haven't, but you have a lot.
Dang.
No, but these are things that we know we do sometimes. Again, we recognize as a little ironic. But yeah, things that really annoy us. Honestly, that make us angry sometimes about board gamers. Yeah. I want to say I just get annoyed, but some of these, I started thinking about them. I was like, man, it makes me so mad.
Yeah, 100%. You get like really annoyed at someone and you're like, wow, this has turned into anger. It's happened so many times.
Right. So I'm going to jump right in here at my first one. And my first one is actually, it's my first one because it's the one I feel least strong about. My 6th from the most annoying thing. And this one I think is my least strong one because people do it unintentionally. And that is they're only interested in new games. You're like, hey, I played this game. They're like, well, have you played the new edition of it? You're like, no. So you played the new edition. Hey, I played the new edition. But have you tried the expansion? You're like, I haven't. You tried the expansion. They're like, well, but this game came out last month. And so all their games, you look at their top 10 games, they're all games they played the last few months. They're only interested in new things. I know it comes from a point of excitement. And this is actually all the things on my list, the one I think I can be the most guilty of.
Yeah.
The other things, I'm perfect. This is the last one. I don't do anything else on my list. But this one, it's easy to unintentionally not be a little obnoxious with.
When you get all excited about it and everything, and you're just like, I just want to show everyone how much I love this. And then not everyone's as excited. Right.
Sometimes you just have to bite your tongue and be like, you know what, I'll just be excited with them about the game and not... I don't want to talk too much about this because this is definitely bleeding into a few other things on my list. Yeah. But just in general, the kind of annoying when someone can only be excited about the new things. All old games are over. Like, they're like, you play a game that's just great. They're like, oh, it's 2 years old. So over that game. And you're like, 2 years old? It's still new. But yeah. That's my first one. It's the last time I'm not going to be angry. The rest of the list, I'm going to be pretty angry. So, what do you got? So
my first one was being unhelpful in games, especially if someone is teaching the game. And it's like, this happens more with competitive than it does with co-op, but it can happen in co-op. It's just like, someone's teaching the game and someone's like, well, I want to ask you a strategy question. And they're like, yeah, I'm not telling you because that would make me lose. You're like, but I don't know what I'm doing. Or the only advice they give is advice to hurt other players. They're like, yeah, I got a good strategy. You can take over that right there. And then they do that on your turn. You're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Gotcha. Yes. You losers. Yes. It's like, be helpful. Give good advice. Give advice to hurt yourself. Yeah, especially, it's not the end of the world to, like, lose a game, especially if you're bringing in someone new, because you might want that person to play other games with you in the future, and it could just put someone off, and you've just lost a new player. Yeah. So I think that one's an important one. I agree. Check. All right. My number 5. This one's going to seem really mean, but it's not. I had to explain myself. People who don't know how to learn new games. Now, I will immediately say I'm not talking about... I know people have different learning rates. Some people you teach a game to, and they might not pick up on it as quickly. Or you might explain the rules and say, hey, I'm confused about the second phase of the game. How does that work? I'm not talking about that at all. Like when I teach a new board game, my number 1 goal is people enjoy it. Like I actually don't care if I win or lose. Like my worst situation would be I taught a new board game and everyone hated it and I won. That'd be horrible, right? I want people to enjoy it. So I'm not referring to people who struggle learning the game. I mean people who it's like they actively make it harder for the teacher and the other players to learn the game. And this is one that it's my number 5, right? It's not even close to my most one. I feel a little personally attacked because I know I'm pretty bad about, like, I hate rule books. And I'm just like, and I want to ask questions. And I'm just being like, sometimes like, well, I'm starting at the beginning. It's like, no, start from the end and work your way back. Yeah, yes. Like, I definitely do this to people. You weren't the biggest offender, but I had you in mind a little bit for this one. But I knew you were petty like that. rather than get too much into like explaining this, I'm just going to give you some examples. So you're teaching a game, and you're like, hey, this is Emotep. You have your sled here. You've already taught some of the basic mechanisms. You get partway in, you're like, you can have 5 cubes on
Oh, you're texting. Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, you can have 5 things on your sled. You're cool. You're just texting. And then like later, they're like, you didn't explain the sled. You're like, right, because you were just texting with your friends, or even worse, like you're telling your people, and they're like, hey, look at this funny thing on my phone, and you're just talking, and or you start telling the rules of the game. You're like, hey guys, we're playing viticulture. We're doing a viticulture. And someone goes, you haven't explained the mechanisms yet. What are you doing? And you're like, I haven't finished my first sentence yet. This is definitely a pick that probably should have been higher. I got really angry thinking about this one because you're like, so many times trying to teach a game, you're like, you start to tell people what the big goal, big picture. Someone said, I can't learn unless you start with the details. Well, you start with the details, and someone's like, unless you give us a big picture, nothing makes sense. Like, you have to remember when you're learning a game, you're in a group of people. Sitting around playing together. First of all, your learning style isn't the only important one. There's literally people there who want the big picture, some people want the small picture, but you're not the one who learned the game. You're not the one who did the work to learn it and then teach it to the group. So just be respectful of the person teaching and the other players, knowing that, again, ask questions. It's great. Like, I think like, we know each other well. We play games with Joel. Like, if I'm teaching a game to Joel and I get into the second phase or something, he said, oh, wait, on the first phase, our board says this. Can you explain what that means? That's fine. Like, when we're having a conversation or some back and forth, I'm referring to people who are making it, they go out of the way. You're literally like, I want to talk about, and they just interrupt you. You don't even get to say what you want to say, and then everyone's just confused, and you're saying the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
So.
Or walking away to be like, like grab a snack, and then they come back and you've already continued explaining, then they're like, wait, what happened? I've definitely, I don't know if I've ever personally done that one to somebody, but I know I have experienced it.
Now, I do have a solution to offer. If you are that person and you really can't learn from other people, learn the game yourself. Find the rule book online first. This is actually not me being bitter. This is just, I have done it before where I know I'm going to a situation to learn a new game. I'm not sure the person teaching it will be thorough enough. So I just skim the rule book. I get the big picture first. So I'm like, oh, this is kind of what I'm doing. If you have the ability to, that would be my advice. If you know you're that person that often struggles learning new games, just skim through it first. And again, ask questions. You could put, maybe you have this on the list. You could put bad board game teaching on this list too. For sure.
Yes.
But I'm going more for this route because I tend to be the teacher.
I didn't have that on my list, but that is a good one that definitely happens.
Yeah. Okay, that is the one that, it should have been higher, but it made me mad thinking about it. But
there's only one spot.
I know. What's your 5?
So my 5 really has to do with board game stores and people who work at the stores. It's kind of really specific, but it's like people who don't know how to recommend games. Like, it's one thing if you make a bad recommendation to like a friend or someone else, but I've like been in stores where someone comes in and their only experience is apples to apples, and the salesperson there is just like, oh, you like competitive games, and they'll grab out like a Dune Imperium, something so above their level, and not being able to listen and understand where these people's skill level is, what they enjoy, and when you get a great person who's really good at hearing that and helping make good recommendations, that's amazing because you never get a bad game from that person. But when someone just like, oh, I'm excited about this, and they recommend it to the wrong person, you're just like, this person's going to hate games forever because you took an apples to apples player and just threw them into something that's complicated for board gamers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I had that happen at a store not too long ago where there was a husband and wife, and they were talking together, like, they played Catan or something, and they were holding, I don't remember what it was something like Oath or Nemesis, some massive game, and they were like, do you think this will be too hard for us? And I was like, and there's other guys saying there, like, no, that game's not complicated at all. It's very simple. And they're like, okay, and he walked away, and I was like, come here. Let me
I've had to do that too before.
And you're just like, oh man, like it's complicated. All right, so my number 4 is telling other people how they're supposed to enjoy games. This burns me a lot.
Yeah.
So there's some good examples. Like, we were talking about photosynthesis the other game. You never played photosynthesis.
No, I haven't played that one.
But it's a game that it looks beautiful, but it's actually a pure strategy game. So the issue, this game is very dynamic. There's like 2 ways you can do it. You can enjoy it by being like intense strategy, because it is a pure strategy. Think out 5 moves ahead of time, try to block the sunlight from other people's trees so they don't get as much energy, all this stuff, right? It's interesting, but it looks so charming. Some people interpret it as just like sit back, drink coffee, and do moves and have fun. Well, you can do it either way. The issue I have is, like, let's say you have 2 people who love it, and they're just like, oh, we love this game. They play it, and it's so intense, it's so strategic, and someone's like, that's not how it's meant to be played. you didn't do that. And you're
You
like,
didn't do it right.
or Tokaido is another one. Tokaido looks beautiful, but it's really head to head. I'm blocking you. It's intense. Some people do it one way, another. I don't have a problem with how you interpret. I think there are some games that are nice to sit back, drink coffee, and not overthink it. Right? Some card games are great for that.
Yeah.
You're just like, I'm going to put down 4 7s. It might not be the best move. You don't care that much. A short, fast game, but then just telling other people, no, you enjoyed that wrong. Like, oh, I love how Catan's like this, or Carcassone's like this. I was like, no, that's not the way it was meant. The designer intended this. Just let people enjoy games the way they want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff on these lists can just be like, just chill out a little bit.
Just chill.
It's like take a chill pill and just calm down. Like, in the end of the world, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
If someone doesn't play it the same as you, just cool it.
Especially if you're not even in the game. I'm just going to tell you. And if it did happen, it was a great experience. Remember, don't play that game with that group. So, anyways, what you got?
So my number 4 is actually very similar to your number 1. It's just
my number 6.
Or your number 6. The first one you said, not the number 1. Is just the always pulling out something new. And I enjoy trying new things, but I like to play a game multiple times because a lot of times when I play it the first time, I don't feel like I've grasped all the rules, all the strategy. Which tends to also mean that if I play with someone who always pulls out something new, I never win anything because I'm always the new person in there. And it's fine. Like, I don't feel like I have to win all the time, but you want to feel like you can at least fight back. Mm-hmm. And I want to spend time actually learning a game, and that means more than one playthrough.
Yeah.
And so that constant just like, let me pull out something new. And I am mildly notorious in our group that plays for hating learning new games. I love new games. I hate the process of learning them. I don't know when the last time I've read a rule book
is. My number 5.
Yes, I was like, I always give the rule book to somebody else to read because it's one of the things I really don't enjoy about games.
Right.
And so I just like, and I know that about myself, but I know other people, like Ryan, enjoy being the one to teach games and learn the rules. So I'm like, here's the rule book, tell me how to play.
If you've seen videos with me and Joel, we'll all 3 play games together, but literally we'll buy her a game for Christmas, then we'll take it. You'll open it, because we all like opening games and punching them, right?
I love popping out the pieces.
But then we'll take it, we'll learn, we'll even play together sometimes before you, just like, this will go better, and then we'll teach you.
And I'm fine with that. But I also want to play the game more than once. And I'm not a person who also goes out and has to buy every new game.
Yeah.
So I don't think I actually own a lot of new games. It ends up being this thing where I want to play a game for like 5 or 6 plays before I feel good about it. Mm-hmm. And then we can move on to something new. That's fine. Like, we end up playing a lot of new just because we live a distance away, and so it ends up being a lot more of that. But if we all lived closer, we wouldn't do that. We would play the same game a lot more frequently. Yeah,
I've played Viticulture a lot in my life, and I'm proud of that. 7 Wonders.
And I've played it twice.
Yeah, you can play it more. All right, so my number 3, I think we're on 3 right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Is feeling the need to review or comment on a new game, like before you play it, while you play it, after you play it. I don't mean like, I kind of like the breakdown session after a game, like, oh, what do you think about this? That's fine. I mean, like when you're teaching, I mean, this is weird. It would be surprised if you never had the experience how much it happens. If you're the one teaching a game, you're like, okay, so this spot here gives you 2 coins. This spot here gives you 1 coin and 1 food. And someone's like, that's not balanced.
You don't know.
How do you know that? They're like, oh, that's not done very well, or that's kind of a weird sequence. Why'd they do that? And it's like, and especially, it's fine when everyone's learning a new game. It's not fine. It's already annoying. But especially if you played a game like 20 times and you know it's balanced, and it's like, that's not, you get into a whole argument about the balance. You're just trying to be like, oh yeah, I mean, you'll probably see as you go along. Actually works out pretty well. No, that's clearly the best spot. And you're like, well, go there and I'll beat you. Do it, I dare you. Like, it's just, or that need to feel like you have to have this strong opinion on a game, like when you first start, or it happens a lot of variable player powers. You play a game and everyone just complains if someone wins. They're like, well, clearly you had the best power. And you play the game 5 more times and you realize that maybe they didn't. Maybe just they had the most obvious power of what to do, but once you learn the other powers, they're actually maybe even better. It's just that need to feel you have the strong opinion, especially like you haven't even played the game yet, or you get on that first game session, and it's a game that's like one of the most popular games of all time, right? It's sold 100,000 copies. It's like highly rated in all regards. And someone's just like, it's broken and not balanced.
Yeah, that happens.
And you've done it for half an hour.
That game that Joel loves, I can't remember what the name is.
I need more information on that.
His favorite game, the one with all the the tons of characters and the battleships.
Yeah. Not Battlestar Galactica. Cosmic Encounter.
Cosmic Encounter.
Yes.
He loves that game, but without fail, every time he teaches it to somebody, it is always someone's like, well, your character was just OP'd, or your person could just counteract my character.
Right.
And sometimes it's true at the moment, like, that person can counteract, but that's because I could do this and you could do... Everyone hurts each other in some ways.
Yeah.
But that game, I feel like that's one of the more common ones that if people play that game, that's always the responses. Yeah. And there is a polite way at the end of a game or even in the middle of a game to be like, to even ask, just be like, hey, I look at this and this seems really unbalanced. Like, I've only played it once. Like, you played a lot more. Do you see this unbalanced? Like, there's a polite way of asking that if that's how you're feeling. Yeah. Without being like, I just know best and this is the way I know
Clearly.
it. It's just, it's like after your one playthrough. But there's like a polite way if you're really feeling that, like, to be like, yeah, this game's really not hitting for me because this feels really unbalanced. Like, there's a polite way of bringing it up without being, like, aggressive and know-it-all about it.
Yeah, we played Seven Wonders Duel. The first time I played, first 5 or 10 playthroughs, first player is a huge advantage. I realized that I was wrong. There's an advantage. But it's not as big as I once thought it was. And I didn't realize that until I played the game a lot. So, just feeling the need to have this, then sometimes you talk about a game for 3 hours and you could have played 2 more games.
That is true.
Yeah. What you got? Number 3?
So my number 3 is an elitist attitude that happens. And I've done this before. You've probably done this before.
I'm just thinking, we're going to say the same thing here later, but go ahead.
But it's just this whole, attitude of just well, these are the only games that are best. Or if you're playing with a group that is not, a board gaming group, and they're like, hey, you want to come over and play games? Well, when they mean games, they mean that they're pulling out Apples to Apples or Ticket to Ride or Carcassonne. Some of these more mainstream games that everyone's pretty much heard of. And then come in there and be like, oh, you're playing the lower level of games. And
with your cigar.
And, it is true. I think most gamers are probably not, if they're playing with other gamers, would not pull those out. It would probably make jokes about Monopoly, make jokes about other games, because they're like, yeah, if this group pulled it out, we would probably mock someone who showed up with Clue.
But if they showed up to your group seriously with Clue, you keep your mouth shut.
You keep your mouth shut. If someone I love Clue, and I get a lot of hate in my group for loving Clue. And you know what? I own 2 copies of Clue. And you know what? No one has ever played this. This one got me really spiteful because I was
number 1, Ryan not playing Clue with me. I didn't know you liked Clue so much.
I love Clue.
Oh, we can play it. Joel
even got me...
I can play that Lester game once.
Joel got me a brand new copy of it, and I haven't even got to open it up.
What's the theme? What's the universe? Is it just Clue?
It's just a classic Clue.
It's going to be like Star Wars.
It's in a book and everything. It looks super cute, but it's just... It is something I love that you could never pull out. I don't even bother because I know the response I will get is... oh, you brought out this, and, and it's just not the nicest, especially if you're going into groups that are not board gamers, coming out there and just being like, oh, you like to play this game, or there's better versions of this game, and you're probably right, but sometimes it's just not the most appropriate time to be right. Yeah.
I agree 100%.
Chill.
I am chill. I have something similar, but I will save it for a little bit. Yes, okay. I completely agree. So my number 2 is just one giant category that includes poor sportsmanship, being a bad winner. You're winning a game, and you can tell someone's a little annoyed, and the game's finished, and the first thing out of your mouth was, well, you shouldn't have ever gone there. That's how I took advantage of that. And you're like, just... back off. I'm glad you won. Or being a poor loser. Oh my goodness, being a poor loser. If you're playing a 4-player competitive game, 3 of you are going to lose. Yes. If the other 3 are always in a bad mood, no one's ever going to have a good time. And when you lose, there are going to be games where everything goes badly for you. But
it happens.
But the whole game, every time you pick up, you're playing a deck builder, right? Pick up your cards. Oh, these are my bad cards again. You can't have 3 turns of all bad cards. You've been through all your cards. Or every time you roll the dice, you're just like, oh, maybe don't play a lucky game if that's really going to bother you. But some people just do it, and the whole time, then they lose. And the first thing, well, I lost because this happened. Just if you lose, just make the first thing out of your mouth was you played good. Or that was a good play, or that was really smart. And then you guys can talk, if you're a group that knows each other well and you want to talk about, man, the cards were just I didn't pick a card this time. Not saying you can't say that stuff,
that's fine.
But just being really sour, and then right along that, just complaining the whole game, tanking games when you're losing, no one will have fun because you're just every turn you're just like it doesn't matter. I'll just go here. And it's like just again you're playing a competitive game. Like you're not going to win all the time, and if you can't do that, or when you do win, if you're going to be a jerk,
no one's going to want to play with you anymore.
Yeah,
I've definitely had experience like that. Like the first and only time I played Twilight Imperium, which is really not my type of game to begin with, but I'm willing to play other games that other people are into, even though they're not my thing.
Yeah.
There was 4 of us playing. One person was losing really bad, and they pouted. And so we all gave up, the other 3 of us, and then they won, and then they, like, rubbed in all of our faces, and we were all like, you pouted and made the game unfun. It's already, like, a 6-hour game. We can't, it's like, no one wanted to sit there through that. And then he was, like, bragging that he won, and it was like, it's like, that just kind of, it really put a sour taste. So now every time I'm like, someone's like, this could be fun to try, and I'm like, it's not fun to try.
No, that's... Man, people who just like, it's like all that matters is them. Just try to make the first thing out of your mouth encouraging to the winner. If you're the winner, try to make the first thing you say something like, it actually diffuses a lot of issues. If you win a game that has some luck, being like, man, I'm lucky I got that last roll. Because the other players know you beat them. They know that you play probably better than them for the most part. And you just like offer an olive branch and everyone just like, then you can just chat about the game. People will be more honest, not like defensive. The first thing you say is like, wow, you stink at this.
Yeah.
This was so easy to beat you.
Or losing and like shoving the cards or pieces. Like we played with people like that and I'm just like, they will never touch one of my games. They're too expensive for someone to shove my game around or throw cards. It's just...
So be a good sport. Don't complain the whole
one.
game. If you're losing and you know you have no shot, you can still try to have a good attitude. Try to make it fun for the other players. So, anyways, what you got? Number 2.
Number 2 is, so this can go along with some of the others, but like bringing out the wrong game for the wrong group. So this kind of goes along with like store recommendation, like game wrong, but just being like inviting a group over and pulling out something that is just not appropriate for the group, that the learning curve is too high. Because a lot of times when you get a group time, you have a limited time to play. And so if you pull out the wrong game for that group, and we have people in our group that we play games with frequently that they are really not into complicated games, or theme really bothers them, that they're just like, I will not play something with a violent theme in it. And that's their choice. That's a prerogative to decide what they like. And so it wouldn't be appropriate for us to bring out a really complicated, a scythe for someone whose like favorite game is like cafe, and so I think just sometimes the social awareness can be lacking. And so you're excited about that game. This kind of can also go along with bring out new games, is out of excitement of something that they love, they bring out the wrong people. And that ends up making a bad experience for everybody, the new players and the person who's excited about it, because this person is not as excited as them. And when you're excited about something, you want someone to share your joy.
Like it.
And if they don't share the joy in the game, it's a real bummer. So just bring out the proper game for the proper group. If you have like I've had groups that were church groups. It was so everyone was invited, and it wasn't like we gathered at a game store with gamers. So there were some people who were elderly, who their only experience were with like card games, like classic Hearts and stuff. And there were board gamers. There were also teenagers who had never experienced anything other than like Monopoly. And so
stupid kids.
I know, stupid kids. Bringing out the wrong type of game in that group could just be like, sometimes we got together and a whole 4 hours was wasted over an inappropriate game. And it would drive me crazy because everyone was frustrated. Then no one paid attention. Everyone just snacked and talked and ignored the game. And it just made for a long, not very fun experience.
Yeah. My number 1. It's related to your number 3, I think. What's your number 3?
My number 3 was like elitist attitudes.
Yeah. My number 1 is just the big category of gatekeeping. Like, you have the keys to the kingdom. You understand what makes board games. And yeah, you have, it's very similar. That attitude of, I relate to biking in some ways. Like, I like biking. I think biking's really fun. Yeah. Some people will be like, hey, I rode my bike for 10 miles for the first time the other day. And you have like 3 options. You can be like, that's awesome. Like, that's so cool. Like, where'd you bike? Like, what kind of bike do you have? What do you like? Do you like exploring? Do you like kind of speed? What's your thing? Yeah. You can choose just to say nothing and say, cool. Or you can be a jerk and be like, well, one time I rode 80 miles. Then they write 80 miles. And then they tell me, I rode 80 miles. And I'm like, the time I rode 80 miles, I had to do it over hills. And it wasn't even on pavement. It was on crushed limestone on a trail. I don't mention the fact I almost died doing it. But you just like get to always one-up them. And so it's, when board games, someone's like, if someone plays Catan, we played Catan when we were kids. We liked Catan a lot. And I don't think Catan is a horrible game. We loved it. Someone says, I like Catan, and you're in the same boat. A lot of people who used to play it, and you just burned out on it. I mean, I don't think anything's wrong with that. We played it so much. You just burned down on Catan. You have 3 options. Someone says, we love Catan. And they're telling you, you're not reviewing Catan. Mm-hmm. If I did a review on Catan, I can say what I want to. You're telling your friends, say, hey, do you like Catan? You guys can talk about that. But when someone like comes to you and says, hey, I played this new game Catan, it is so cool. You could be like, that's awesome. We love that game. We played it like 100 times. I mean, I don't like it anymore because I played it so much, but we played that. You can just say nothing. You can say, cool. Like, or what you like about it. Ask them a question. Shocking conversation skills. Or you can just be a jerk and be like, oh man, that game's terrible.
Yeah.
And you see that surprisingly a lot. Someone says, I like this game, and the first response is, oh man, that game is horrible. No, I don't like it, but that game's dumb. Or do you want to know a game that actually does that, but does it well?
Yeah.
and they're just like, pop their bubble and just tear them down. Like, what are you doing? Just.
And this is a problem throughout all hobbies. Every hobby has gatekeeping issues, but just like, have respect for other people and have respect for the history of board games in the sense of like what we have. You know, you might hate Risk, but now we got these pretty epic war games, if that's your thing. Would have probably never came into existence without Risk being so popular and making so much money.
And if you like Risk, that's cool. Again, there's nothing wrong. Like, we talk about games that we hate sometimes. That game was trash. But that's totally different than someone saying, hey, I love this game. And just like, I don't like Splendor. I feel like everyone likes Splendor. I think Splendor's fine. But if someone's like, I have one game I love and it's Splendor, I'm not going to be like, here's all the things I hate about it. So, gatekeeping, just be happy for people. Be happy they like games.
Yeah.
That one will annoy me. I'm thinking maybe don't know how to learn games from number 1, how mad I got about it. But
I was like, nothing else you got as salty about.
I just got it all out there. So what is your number 1?
So my number 1, and this is actually kind of a funny one because
I do it.
No, you don't
good.
do this. It is something that if someone is not a gamer, I find it a little annoying, but I don't get upset about it. If someone's a gamer, I get really mad. Playing on your phone. If someone is not a gamer and they start texting and messing around on their phone, pow!
Haha, block!
Yeah, but if someone's like not a gamer and they're playing on their phone, I can give a little bit more grace for that because they don't understand how long time, games take sometimes. But then when someone who knows, is that disrespectful to be pulling out their phone? And if you get a call or you need to, then just say, hey, I'm sorry, I got a call, I need to take, this is my wife or this whatever. It's step away or something, just being like, or have your turn pre-planned out so just you can be like, hey, can you just play this stuff for me so the game can continue? But when you know that this is something, that this game is a long game and everyone's sitting there waiting for you, it's like, gamers know. And so I feel like it's almost just a blatant just disrespect to everyone else's time that's there. Yeah. And so that one probably gets me the most mad. And that's probably the only thing on this list I will actually say something to somebody. I generally won't say anything to anybody if they're doing one of these things. I'll just like get petty, then call him and tell him about it. But that one will be one that I will legit just be like, hey, everyone's waiting for you. It's like, can you put down your phone or if you can't stop grabbing it, like put it in the other room so it's not a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, phone is a number 1 culprit. It does happen in other situations, like someone they play their turn, they like go grab food, and they come back and they're just like, oh, what was that? And they do the turn, they immediately leave again. It's fine, get food. But if every turn, so again, but phone is the one that seems to be the number 1 culprit. People just like,
most of the time.
they just like, they text, or they're the worst, they're just kind of like, hey, do you see that?
And it's someone else's turn.
And they're the one whose turn it is. And they're like, and they can tell it's really awkward. And just like, everyone's like, But like you said, you can be respectful. Like, I've had times like, hey, I might get a call. I might take it. I'm sorry. You just, or someone calls, just, hey, guys, this is important. But it's a pattern thing. It's not saying that someone does once, you get mad at them. It's like when it...
Yeah. And again, it's usually not, if someone's not a gamer and they don't know what to expect, you're willing to give a lot more grace for them the first few times because they just haven't been in this environment where games that take a while that you actually do have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And so, but then when someone who has been doing this for a while does it. It's a different story.
When Cassie has friends and they come to the third game night, she's like, here's the rules. You are now in the experience category. Your phone comes out.
I have honestly thought about having a phone basket. And I'm just like, this is going to make me seem like You've been a preschool teacher before, right? So. Yes. Yeah, where you're like, okay, all distractions need to go in the basket.
Yeah.
Because, and I feel this about a lot of things. I mean, any social interaction, if you're with somebody, you really shouldn't be on your phone because you need to respect the person that's in front of your face.
Yeah.
With exceptions to, sometimes you are going to have a phone call that you need to. That is life. But anything, you should do that. But I feel like board games can become long and painful and tedious.
Yeah, and some people say I'm only on my phone because the game takes too long. Maybe it's just not your style game. And that's fine. You know that now. Maybe it's not your thing. So.
And I would say, if you do feel like it's long and that's the reason you're winding on your phone, then just get through one game. Just get through it and then just tell everybody just like, that was not my thing. And people will have a lot more respect for you as a person if you say, I didn't enjoy that. It was too long for my preference over you just sitting there on your phone and everyone just feeling like you don't care about the people there.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's not, 12 total things with the crossover? About 10 total things with the crossover of things that
That's true,
drive us crazy, that make us hate you more. I mean, not you personally, but things that hopefully, I was going to actually say at the beginning of the video, if you want to try to guess some things, you want to put your own things down in the comments, feel free to. That would have been fun. But I totally spaced on that. But if you want to now, if there's anything that we missed, I'm sure there's a lot of things that we missed. But
I could have gone on for like 20.
I know. But these are the ones, I try to boil it down to the ones that I experience.
Yes.
And drive me the most crazy. Some things I'm like, flipping tables. It's never happened. If it did to me, they would be on my list. It's never happened. No one's ever gotten so mad they've like thrown a board on me or something. Mm-hmm. I know it's different for you, but no one's ever done that to me. But these are the things that happen often enough that I see them that they actually kind of annoy me.
Yep, so. I agree.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed it, of course, like I said, leave a comment. Let us know what some of your things that drive you the most crazy are. Of course, you want to subscribe, want to follow it. You can follow the channel too if you want to be creepy. You can subscribe to the channel and see other top 10s like this, some playthroughs. We play games together sometimes too, some solo playthroughs, and some reviews. So, see ya.
Bye.